Alright. So now today we have to start the sequence, right? So first thing we need to know that why do we even require a sequence, right? We have a table. So a sequence in a Postgres is a special kind of data object, right? We have already seen in our system that we have two things right now. View we have created and table we have created, right?
Yeah.
We know these are different database objects, right? So the sequence is also a special kind. View is a special kind of database object, right? It's not a table where we have the rows and columns. It stores the query inside it, right? And when we store the query in the system, then it becomes easier for us to access the data, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is view is nothing just a from clause of query that we store in the database. So similarly, sequence also has a specific task to deal with. So whenever we create a sequence, we have to generate mostly in more than 99% of the cases we need to create a primary key. Only reason that we create a sequence is to just make sure how we can create a primary key. That's the reason that we create the sequence. That would be the first thing. The other thing would be, and if we want to create the sequence, we have already seen in the previous sessions that we can create a serial data type, right? And it can also handle the same thing. It can also auto increment the values, right? Whenever
Yeah.
we say that we want to uh, okay, it's not going here. Open text. Adam. Oh, my bad. Does not exist. How. To have ATOM open. Okay, it's not case sensitive. Okay, but continues. Okay, the application is not open. Okay, I will see it later on. So let's see one thing, that we have a table. Let's say that table, some table is there, and the primary key, right? The ID is the primary key, and let's say name, and let's say price. Let's say okay. So whenever I'm doing an insert operation, right? Insert operation I'm trying to do, then I should have mentioned over here the primary key as well, right? One, and then some value to show, and then some value, some price 100, let's say. Salary would be better. Cool. So the thing is, over here I need to enter the primary key again and again, right? So if I don't want the primary key to enter in this way, but I want the primary key, I will provide two items only and deal with the primary key on your own. Then it needs to know, right, what's the best, what's the last ID present, right? And based on the last ID present, I need to increment it as well, right? For
Yeah.
example, 1 and 2 and 3 were there, I want to insert now Kishore, then it needs to know that okay, there is 3 value present, then let's go and select the 4, right? This is the way we need to do the task, right? So how can we achieve it if there is no sequence, right? So one thing is, if we are a database engineer and we need to make sure that we do this, so we know that ID has a primary key, right? B tree index will be there. Okay, we haven't completed the index, but primary key always have this indexes, right? So any table, if we open, then you will see the indexes section. Order P key is a primary key, and it will always have the ID. We don't have to create it; it will be created on its own. So we know that primary key will always have an index, right? So what I can do, I can just see, I can just normally select max. Okay, let me show it over here, right? Select max and then ID from public orders, right? So the 7 is the max. We have only 7 orders. Okay, so we have less data in this, right? So let's take the products table. We have okay. We haven't done the index, so we have less data in our system. Cool. So from public products maximum is 4, right? So because there is an index, this query will be executed faster, right? And even what we can do, we can even while inserting, like insert into products, right? What we usually do, id will be 5, right? And then name, let's say we add new product and the product is cake pastry burger, let's say burger, right? And then bun paneer burger, and then the price 50, and then now, and now we know that this will execute, right? If I hit enter, this query will execute and the burger will be inserted, right? Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, wait, let me just, okay, move it a little bit. Oh, what the heck? Okay, so now it's better, right? A little, that's cool. So now if I try to run this command, then the data will be entered, right? But instead of doing this, what I'm going to do, okay, let's see. Okay, 5. Okay, values are
Values.
there. All right, values, right? So the data has been inserted, right? So if
Yeah.
I will try to view the data, select asterisk from public, oh my bad, from public or products, then burger is there, right? Let's delete it, right? Delete it. Now no burger again. So again I'm trying to insert the burger, but what I can do, so that I don't need to enter the 5, right? So what I will do, select max and then id from public products, right? And then I
Okay.
need to add one. So let's see first of all whether this query is a subquery that we are trying to execute, right? Let's
Sure.
see first that it will execute, right? 5
Okay.
value you will get. So now if I try to insert this, but over here it's showing some error. Okay, cx is there. Let's remove this, and max. Select max id plus 1. Okay, values. Let's copy paste it and select IDs into values and select max from public products. Okay, what's the issue with this? If I'm trying to execute this thing as solo, then the answer is 5, right? Why it's not working here?
I
Is it cause of
ID.
alias as ID?
ID. Yeah, ID.
No. Try to read the error that we are getting.
From public dot products. Insert into.
Come again?
It is you are referring to the same table, right? Public dot products. Public dot products.
Yes. So
As ID.
what do you think? What's the issue over here?
Thinking only that aliasing issue only is there. Products.
So alias we have already provided, right? Alias. Okay. You are saying that, okay, instead of in you are saying that instead of giving
here
products
it
as
should come.
alias
Yeah.
if you provide alias to the column name, right? The thing is, it's as p, and this
P
is
dot
subquery,
id.
so there is no confusion, right? So this is the subquery. Subquery will be executed first. So p dot id is not required.
Okay.
I mean, try to come up with your own your own solution. I mean, how do you think that? I mean, should it be allowed to insert the query into this, or should not? It should not be allowed. Have we even done this thing in the subquery part?
I think in the insert class we never tried subquery.
Okay, so there are two. There are okay. So the one thing that we need to see first is that if I just copy paste this command, right? And okay, it's already copy pasted, right? And then I just remove this thing. If I just remove this thing and make it as 5 and enter, then the value will be inserted, right? So we know one thing, that the only thing that is not working for us is this subquery, right?
Okay.
Then what else we can do with this thing is, there are different ways to insert the data, right? One thing is where we don't mention what data we need to insert, right?
Okay.
And the other way is, we can make sure that one thing is this, where we are not mentioning the number of columns, right? And in other way, we mentioned it on which column which data needs to insert it. Usually we use that thing when we need to enter less data, right? We want to skip some data. Do you
Okay.
remember that thing or not?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so if we try to use that, will it work or not? Okay, well, the other first thing is, uh, we are not using, I mean, we are not learning about this, we are learning about the sequence right now. The main topic is sequence. So instead of doing this, so instead of what product, if we try to add, okay, what's the column names? Okay, I don't know the column names. So the table is products, right? Products. So again, over here, before the products, if we try to just copy paste all the column names, and then okay, id name, description, price, created, modified, date. Cool. So now we mentioned that okay, the first thing is id, right? And then if I try to
Okay.
enter it, it is giving us error in the select clause, even though we have given okay, where do we have it as PID, right? As ID we are trying to provide the value.
Okay.
And let's see in update. So we need to know as well that okay, just give me one sec. Okay, restart this. Cool. So where were we? Okay, we were trying to use this into the insert statement, right? So let's try some another thing. Let instead of okay, okay, that's very do we have the 5 over here or not? So we know that this thing will work, right? So let's try to insert and select. Cool, the fifth is not here, right? So the same query, right? The same query that can insert the data, but instead of this, what we can do is select id from public orders, where okay, let's write some lame id, right? One, so it will return one only, right? Select id from public orders where id equals to 1, right? it will return only 1, right?
ID equal to 1.
We, I mean, it's very basic. This will return 1 only, right? Select ID from public orders where ID equals to 1.
Okay.
And
Your voice is breaking.
okay, my voice is breaking. Okay,
Hello?
all right. Is it breaking still? Hello.
Yeah, now it is okay.
Okay. So what will be the output of this query? This subquery.
One row. It is
1 will be the output, right? We are saying
row.
that return the ID value where from the orders
Yeah,
table
okay. Here
where
it
the
will be
ID
1.
is 1. So
Yeah.
ID is the 1 and we want ID only, then we get 1 only, right?
Yeah.
If I run this, then I will still get error, right? What it's saying that over the ID part there is issue, right? So the
Okay.
thing is, I mean, you are learning database, but it's cool. But the thing is, we have inserted the data, right? Okay, my bad.
Okay.
We cannot, I mean, we need to wrap it up. We want a single value. We cannot use a query. We need, whenever we have used a subquery, we have used it in the parenthesis, right? Because we want it as a value. We cannot use it directly. So let's delete it again. Delete this thing again, and the query that we were running, this thing, insert into product ID. Okay, yes, cool. Okay, even earlier. One this thing, right? This thing, if I just wrap it up, even not as ID, I don't need to write even, and even as ID also I don't need to write. I just need to wrap it up as this thing, right? And the reason is, see,
Action.
if I try to run this now, it's inserted, right? And see, this is the value. This is okay. Let me show you the value also. See, this is the thing that it is accepting, right?
Okay. Okay.
So the thing is, it wants, I mean, if you want to use the subquery, it does not matter, you can use the subquery. But the thing is, it should only get the value. The subquery should get the value. Earlier we were giving the subquery. It's not going to execute the subquery and take the values, right? Value will only take the value. It will not take us. It will not take a
Multiple
subquery,
values.
right? It will not take a subquery as a value and then
Yeah.
trying to execute that value. This values will only take the proper values for the particular columns. It's not going to take some SQL and then try to execute it. This is a part of functional programming, right? The first level function and second level functions. If you're not aware about it, then we can leave it. But it does not take a function as a function. So it requires a value. So if you don't write the parenthesis, then it will provide the value, right? That's why I was again and again asking you that, okay, please try to read the code, right? The error was saying that, okay, the select is having some issue. Every time the select is having some issue, right? Over here
Okay.
also, then even when we moved the query, then also it was the same thing. Cool, no worries. I mean, you need to practice to be at that level, but you need to be at this level, right? Eventually. Otherwise, it will be like you have to Google a lot of the things, and every time the Google will not be able to answer things. All right, so we were just checking our till now our the subquery concepts. Again, let's move into the sequence part. This is not a part of subquery. So whatever we have done over here, right? So this is the thing. If you don't want to manually see the data and enter the data, so this is the thing that we can do, right? If you don't want to manually add the sequence,
Okay.
sorry, manually add the primary key, right? This is the thing that we can do, right? I'm audible.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we our
Yeah. Yeah.
database engineer, then one thing that we can do is, if anytime someone is trying to enter this thing and don't providing the values, we can just directly insert this thing as a first parameter, right? The answer of this thing as a first parameter or the primary key. Cool. So this would be the first thing, right, that we can do. What we can do, select max ID from public table, right? This is the thing that we can insert. Cool.
Okay.
But this thing is, I mean, I shouldn't have spent so much time for this. I should have done only this, because we have already completed the previous one. So this is the thing that we can do. The first thing is, we don't, if someone don't need to enter, if someone is trying to insert the data, so internally what I'm going to do, internally I'm going to update this. Java also update the same thing, right? If you don't provide the constructor, Java will create the constructor. If you don't extend the class, Java will extend the object class. So Java also do this kind of thing, right? So post this Postgres or every database also do this thing, right? Query planning and query execution is the two thing that we have seen in the earlier session as well. So during the query planning also it's going to do all this kind of task. So you your this query can be converted into this query, right? This is the task one. But the thing wrong with this is I'm searching again and again, right?
Okay.
So the better option would be if I have some ways that I know in which I can get that okay, the next ID that I can use is 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Let's say that I'm starting with 6, or let's say starting with 6, 7.
Nice.
So if there is some way that I can have directly this, I don't have to run again and again this thing. Every time I'm inserting, I'm running some query, right? It's going to take some time, even though it has some index, but it's going to take a time, right? Because it's going to go to the database. In the permanent storage it's going to go, and from there it's going to read the data, and it's going to read the data only from the read committed, right? We have already covered that.
Yeah.
So it's going to take some time, but if it's possible that we can store the sequence, for example, we have 4 data already, right? And if we can have some data that okay, then that is the next data that is free. So for example 5 is there, right? We will consume it and remove it. Then 6 is there, we'll consume it and remove it, right? Then 7, we'll consume it and remove it. And as soon as there is some threshold achieved, then again we are going to extend these values, right? Okay, the next will be 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15. This will be a better way, right, to store this data, this sequence, into the buffer memory, right? Into the buffer memory, in cache, in memory also we call it. And or the over here we can call it cache. We will see why we call it cache and not for the other things, because database call it cache also. So this would be the better thing, right? If we have the data, this data,
Yeah. Okay.
because we don't have to this is the only solution, right? If you have some better solution, then you can let us know. The one thing is this, that we can insert, select and do this kind of work. The second one is this, that we can have some data, right? We can have some from table, like here products, and over here cache IDs, right? Usable IDs, and then just take the top. We can take the just top, right? We can have it as a, in the data structure, if you try to use it, then we can have it as list, stack or queue. Which one we should use?
Here,
Queue we will use, right?
Q you use here. Q.
Yes, because whenever we are entering the first in first out, we require, right, in this scenario. So we can have it as a queue, and as soon as we have a threshold, we can enter another stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. If your data structures are good, then you can think it on your own, right? You don't have to go and then read how it's working, how it's not working. So you can think about it on your own, right? Okay, this is how we can do it. Even though if it's not correct, like if someone is able to think only in this way, that's completely cool, no worries. But this is the only thing, right? But at least you got the first point already. So
Yeah.
that's the main point for learning the data structure style. That's why people, companies usually have that. Cool. Let's move forward. Then we have the ID set, and we know that these are the things. So this is the better approach, right? Already we have seen this, because select query will take some time. So database provides one structure. Now you can say one thing, that this is a better approach, that we got it. This is approach, but if you want to store something somewhere, right? So optimization over this one, that I am trying to search, right? I'm trying to search, and I'm trying to search from a table, right, which can have a lot of rows, and I want to search for the max ID. The one thing with the max ID is it's already optimized, right? Because the primary key okay, we haven't gone through index. So it's like indexing usually follows an order, right? So if you're trying to find the minimum, that it will take the first of the index. If you try to find the maximum, then it will go to the last of the index. So that's the benefit of the indexing. So the query will become way too fast. But another thing that people say, that okay, instead of sequence, why not we create a table? We haven't talked about the structure of the sequence, right? So they say that okay, let's just create a table, and just name it okay, index, or not, primary pk table, and product pk table, right? And over here there will be a column id, and over here last sequence. So the ID will be 1 and the last sequence you get it, take it, let's just example 1000, right? So the next time you need to find which is the sequence that going on, then you can take 100 as the value, right? Select query will have only one row, right? It will be
Yeah,
very
Abhishek,
fast.
voice is completely breaking today. Can you reconnect again? Huh? Hello?
Okay, wait, let me switch my connection. Let me pause the recording as well. My voice is audible now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so
You are
wait.
saying some indexing on the max item, something there I
Yes,
lost you.
okay, leave it. No issues.
Indexing
We'll cover it.
maximum number.
Okay, we'll cover it in the later part. I mean, in the index section. Right now, what else we can do is that we can create a table, right? And in that table, we can have this data that the sequence is 10, 100. The last sequence we have used is 100. So eventually, what will I use? I will use 100, right, over here.
Okay.
So plus one, whatever the value is here, I will use plus one. But the thing is, I need to then update this value as well, right?
Yeah.
Then I need to update this value as well. So the better option is, instead of updating this value as well, we already have these things, right? Then what we
Okay.
can
Yeah.
do, we can directly update this thing, and this is a sequence. So it is created just for that particular reason. So now when we have the background, we will see the structures, that how it is usually created. So now we are going to see the structures for this. So okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, so cool. Okay. So the thing is, the sequence then should provide some structure, right? So whenever, let's create a sequence, and then we will try, we will see that how the values is there and what's the use of it, right? So right now we don't have a sequence, right? Over here, if you can see, let me check whether the recording is on. Yes. So we don't have any sequence, right now.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do, when I have to create a table, then I use the create table, right? When I have to create a view, then I do the create a view, right? Now I have to create a sequence. Then what I'll do the sequence, okay. Then I need to create table name, right? Then sequence, for sequence as well, let's say that it's a product sequence. So product ID and then sequence. Cool. Same as the create table name, right? Or create view name, create
Yeah.
sequence name. Simple. Every time it's the same. Then how much value I want to include? Okay, let me just write it down first. Then we will talk about it later on. That what is the values that we have to select. मैं अकेली तू क्या increment by one, INCREMENT. Okay, okay, increment by one. Okay, do it requires space. Okay, that is it. So it should not have this issue. Increment by one. Okay. My bad. Okay, I can move the cursor. Okay, let me just copy paste it. Okay, cool. With sequence, we don't write commas, right? Every time. A difference between the table thing and the sequencing, right? So if
Acha.
we see the D over here, we have a sequence, right? So if
Okay.
I say to describe my sequence, then now we have these things, right? So over
Okay.
here, this is the command that I have used, right? Create sequence. Then the type
Okay.
of the sequence is the type. See how many values I have provided? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 6 values I
Okay.
have provided, right? And how many columns are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So the type I haven't provided. It has taken by default begin, right?
Okay.
So the first thing is how many, I mean, is there a value that I can change the type of begin? Okay, let's dive deep into that later on. Let's first see what are the what are the things we have over here, right? So over here, let's remove the type. Type will be the just the begin, the value that it can save. Now it's the start, right? What does it mean by start? We are going to talk about the, I mean, why these things are required in the Hibernate, right?
Okay.
Start, whenever we are creating a table, we don't know from where to start, right? I'm saying that start from 1, but there might be a chance that I don't want to start from 1. I want to start with 1,000 or 10,000, or and there might be a case that even if the database is fresh, as by fresh as mean that we have created the new table, there is no row in the table, right? Then the default will be also 1. If I don't provide the start, then the default will be 1 also, right?
Okay.
But the thing is, if, I mean, one case is that I we don't our company don't provide the start the data from 1, right? Because it's way too basic to start the data with 1. So it's better to start with some other values, because people generally try to search with the value 1, because the one usually we have in the database. So companies avoid that, and we will use 1,001, 1,001, even in the lakhs, 6-digit numbers. From there we start. But what eventually happens, so we need to mention it, right? Because in the ORM there is nothing there, right? We just have to mention it somewhere, that if you want to insert something, that what's the value, if there is no value in the database, where to start from. So that's the thing that we'll mention, that okay, one one should you need to return the one value for the start. If you want the primary key will start from the one, right?
Okay.
And then minimum and maximum value. The minimum value the sequence can generate. So if I'm starting from 1, then it should be 1, right?
Okay.
And the maximum value it can generate. So the increment, so the thing is, I mean, we will talk about this. The sequence cannot create a more than value 10,000 it is, right? So 10,001 it cannot create. It will going to throw an error. So the increment by 1. So it means that if we have already inserted 1 from the value we are starting, then next time the value will be 2 to insert, right? If I'll do the increment as 10, then the values will be 10. The next time it will be 20. Next time it will be 30, right? Then there is a cycle. What does cycle mean? Cycle means if I reach the maximum value in the normal scenario, if I'll try to insert another row, or if I try to get another sequence, then what will eventually happen? It will going to throw
Go
an
to one.
exception. But with the cycle, yes, what will happen? That this
You
value
go to one.
1,000, yeah, it's going again with the
Yes.
cycle, and it will going to start giving value 1, right? So if I don't provide any value to this cycle, right, then it will be by default it's no. Cool. And the cache is same thing that we are trying to see over here, right?
Q length. Q length.
Okay, I mean, don't call it queue. We are just speculating, but it's going to be working internally, right? Because there might be a chance in different versions of the Postgres they can change the implementations.
Okay.
So it completely depend on that. So if
Okay.
versions are using some version using some way, then another can use some different way. So this cache is the data will be stored in the, not in, I mean, the data we are going to read, it's not from the permanent storage, it will be from the in memory or the RAM or the buffer space, right? So as soon,
Okay.
now there will be a limit. As soon as this 20, out of these 20, 10, 15, as soon as we consume some X thing, then depending on some factors, it will going to hit another query and create some data into the cache again, so that we can use it later on. Cool. So these are the functionalities that we get with the sequence. So that's why usually we people usually prefer the sequence, because we have a lot of things, right? Increment value is also there, cycle is also there, cache is also there, right? Minimum, maximum, start is also there. We can also use the table, but with the table we have to generate these kind of steps, right? And for the table, other people might get confused that okay, why there is a table, right? And they might try to update the values or change the values, right? But the sequence and the view, because they are different data types, people don't know, they will try to search or they will try to ask you, right? And if you provide the Hibernate has a, I mean, if whenever we create a primary key in the Hibernate, they will ask you that okay, which one you want to use sequence or table to store the primary keys. If you don't mention it, see, this is the beauty of the Hibernate and the other frameworks that we have in Java, that if you don't even know about it and you just use at the rate id, then it will by default create a sequence. So this is the best way, right? At least from the standard point of view, if you don't want to over optimize your data, or if you are not working with this thing,
Acha,
you will
okay.
not be even aware of the sequence, but database will generate on its own. Let me show you in over here. Okay, see, read, okay, my bad. So over here you can see this employee IDs. This sequence is generated by the Hibernate. This also is generated by the Hibernate, right? So this is the thing that Hibernate will generate this sequence, Hibernate sequences. The name is also saying Hibernate sequence, right? So if you don't provide the name, the Hibernate sequence will be there. So these sequences will be generated by Hibernate on its own. So you don't even know, but in the backend these things will happen. But if you are a fresher, then it's good. If you don't know, then it does not matter. But if you are a senior engineer, then you need to know all these things, especially in condition where the throughput needs to be high. So we have seen, now we have know that okay, we have a sequence and we have seen how the sequence works, right? But the thing is, over here we don't, I mean, it's a good thing, right? We have all the data, we can get the data as fast as we want, and everything, it seems good, right? But what we want in the Hibernate sessions, that there will be multiple machines, right? It's not like there will be a single machine in Hibernate. There are, I mean, don't think you will get all of it if you don't know about the Hibernate now. I'm just letting you know, so that even if we don't do the Hibernate course, then also you can have a reference at what's happening over there, right? So this, okay, so if there is a single machine in the Hibernate, if there is a single machine, let's say M1 is the machine, right? And in EC2, right, in EC2 we have a machine M1, right? So M1 will try to save some data into the database, right? But
Okay.
the transaction needs to be done in the data will be executed in a transaction, right? And what will
Yeah.
happen when we write the code, we can write insert query, we can write, right? And the insert query, from insert query we will get the PK, primary key we want of a user, right? PK of user. And that PK of user I need to use in the order table, right? Then order PK I will get, right? So over here I will do insert and all the data that need to insert it, and PK of user, right? This is the thing, right? This is how
Okay.
we are going to write the code as well. And in the Java it will look little different. It will be with public int, or even we can use void and then the save order. Then over here we will get a user object, right? And over here then we will get another data request object. Let's say we have request object, and inside the request object we will have a DAO object. So order DAO dot save, and then user ID, and then we will do the request object. So user dot get id, and this thing will take care of the saving of the user, right? But the user also we need to save, right? Before we call the user, we have called the save user, right? Public void save user, and then again user request object, request object, and then request, and then we will have some user DAO, and then save, and then user object. And it will, instead of this we'll give an int pk user pk. and then we'll return it. Return user PK. Usually we don't do this. Usually it should be like this, return and this only, right? This is a good way. Otherwise, in code review, your senior will ask, okay, change the code. But no worries, over here we just need to know, okay, what data we are having, right? User PK we need to know. So this is how, and then someone will use the main method will be over here, save order, create user and save order. So we will just use and save user request. Okay, or over here also there will be a request object, and then it will provide integer user PK, and then we will do the save order. And over here user, okay, we will have the user instead of this user, instead of PK, let's add the user only, user and user, and instead of this user and just return the user. And over here usually not like that, we'll create a user of it and try to save it. And okay, so user, let's write it properly only, user equals to get user, and from the request we will be creating a user object, and user will be sending over here, so this and then this. Okay, now it's better. So even though we don't return anything, then also it's cool, and we don't have to do anything, return user. And we have the user over here, and instead of it, we don't require from here now, so we can just directly pass the user and the request one. Cool, this is how it's going to happen. But the thing is, all the queries will be sent to the database in a single file, right? It's not like we are going to hit this query first and then wait and then do this query, right? It will not make sense how the transaction will work then, right? Because we have added transaction also, right? Over here, transaction. So if I just save the user first, and then try to save the order, and if that query is already been committed, then it won't make sense, right? There is no transaction then, because transaction says that all these, we have two queries, right now, both should be executed and none should be executed. If there is some error in the save query, then it will not be saved, right? So what happens in the save query, in the users, when we have the column, we have the ID, so we'll generate on its own. We will be having a range. We will be having a range that a single microservice can work. Like if we start from 1, so 1 to 50 we can use. So if the user is created, if the user is not created, right, then too we will provide the value 1 over here. Okay. The user ID. The reason is we have the access from the database from 1 to 50. Our machine M1 has the access to it. So our machine M2 in the multi machine or microservice architecture. So there needs to be a range, right? Which machine can use which range. So M1 can use from 1 to 50, M2 can use from then 51 to 100. So what eventually happens, that if multiple machines are there, what they are going to do, they are going to ask this sequence that please provide us a value that our machine can use. So what will happen, this increment over here, it will not be 1 for this, it will be 50, right? Increment will be 50. So what will happen, machine M1 will try to access it, okay, give me a range of the values. So it will give the return as a 50 value, right? Because 1 to 50 it can use. So 1 to 50 value will be provided to machine M1, and then the increment is by 50, right? Increment is by 50 over here. Right now it's 1, but it will be 50 in the live environment, or maybe more, 100. So the next machine M1, M2, if we try to hit the value that, okay, please give my machine a range of primary key for a particular table, then it will get from 51 to 100. So in this way, if machine M1 and M2 both are trying to insert some values, then there will be no issue or no collision. Otherwise, what will happen, if it also tries to put the one value, right, if they both don't know that their ranges, right, let's suppose that this data is not present, then M1 will also try to insert the one value, right, and M2 will also try to insert the one value, but one value index is already there, so there will be exception every time, right? So this is the way that it handles the value. So that's why the sequence is being used. Cool. and this is the structure of the sequence. And I mean, manually we will not will not insert the value manually. Let's just I'll just show you. C and snappy, and then sequences. Let's check the Hibernate sequences. Public and this. So last value is 1 over here, and is called as false. And then employees from public and employee sequence. And now what we are seeing right now is different, right? There is only one row, there is not many rows, right?
Yeah.
And the reason is why we have different values over here is that whenever we are inserting the value, right, it should not be the case. We haven't inserted any value over here, right? So we don't need to treat it as a table, right, that which value has been inserted. We just need to know one thing, right, which value we have maximum, that thing we have used. And if I try to describe this thing, then do you have this thing? Cycle no, cache 1, increment 1, right? Maximum value is
Okay.
integer dot max. It is integer
Yeah.
dot max.
Yeah.
And then minimal 1 and this. But the data it's saying is just the last value, right? The last value it has. The log count or is called. Why is call is there? Because whether a machine has called the value or not, right? Because when we are saving a sequence, we are not saving the data. So what will eventually happen? We just need to know if I have consumed 1 to 50 and then 50 to 51. I don't need to know which machine has consumed which thing, right? I just need to know which value has been consumed, right? Has been consumed. I just need to know, okay, so from 100 it has been consumed, right? So 100 it has been consumed. So next time someone will call it, so I will give it from 150, right? So only this data is required, at how much value has been consumed, because the primary goal is not to save the data. The primary goal is just to make sure we are able to create or get the primary key in the fastest way as possible, right? But when we mix it with the Hibernate and multi microservice architecture, or simply microservice architecture with multiple instances, then we need ranges for each microservice. So we just need to know, okay, which range we have provided. So I have used it till 150 I have used, and my increment value is 50. Then I need to provide 151 to 200, right? This is the range that I will provide to the machine M3, right? So to make sure how much data I require, I just require data, this thing, last value, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
got it. So, and it will be handled by its own. We don't use the manual insertion of this sequence. The Hibernate will take care of its own. And now it will be better for you to understand when the Hibernate use the sequence, right? If you don't even use anything, right, the Hibernate will still generate the sequence to handle the primary key insertion, right? All right. And okay, I think we have already, our session is 48 minutes, right? Okay, cool, no issues. Now what we can do, as we have already seen the sequence, now we will move into, one thing is that manually you are not going to create the sequence ever, I guess. Ever. You will never create the sequence manually. You are going to create the tables manually, indexes manually, but sequence will be created on its own. And that's it. And now we should go, and in this session only, let's try to see the example of the constraints and functions. It will take only 20 minutes max, and that's it. So okay. So let's, okay, so what do you know about the procedures or triggers or functions?
Nothing. I have zero with databases, as I already told you.
Okay, no issues. See, the thing is, I mean, okay, you are aware of functions, right? Because okay,
Yeah, those
let's
sound good. Aggregate functions.
not only aggregate functions. We have gone through a lot of functions, rate functions, string functions. We have seen a lot range of functions, right? We have seen arithmetic functions, maths dot
Yeah,
sum.
numeric string. Yeah, those
Okay,
functions.
yes. So we have seen the functions, right? The functions
Yeah,
can take the values and return the value. Procedures don't
yeah.
return the value, right? Procedures are like a void method, and functions
Sure.
like a normal method, right? So this
Okay.
is the one thing. Other thing is that over here we don't have any triggers right now, right? We don't have any triggers, right?
Okay.
But the thing is, triggers are not usually, we cannot see the triggers directly when we do the describe it table, right? So we
Okay.
need to, and the functions also over here you cannot see the functions as well. We need to write the query, and then only we will be able to get these data, like how many functions are there, how many this triggers are there, procedures are there. We need to check, and we need to insert the query, and then only we will be able to get the data. Just give me 1 second. No need to. All right. So okay. All right. So the thing is, we need to we if we try to search, then this is the database object, right, where some values has been stored. But the value, why the functions are not here and the triggers is not there, because even though they are not creating the value, I mean it's not, they are not saving the data, right? They are just,
Okay. Yeah.
they
They
will just
execute.
do something if we call something, right? So the function, what functions do it, you will provide, I mean it's kind of normal Java method if you go with it, right? And the
Yeah.
procedures are also the same thing. The thing that we see over here, it stores some data, right? Even the sequence is storing some data. What is the last primary key for a particular table, right?
Okay.
And views is storing one query, right? Just to be used as a from clause of query, right?
Okay.
So these things are different, because these things are storing data. But when we talk about the functions, the procedures, then things become different, because they are not storing the data. They will be doing some tasks based on the certain condition that we have used, right? So the thing over here is, if I want to know that how many triggers are there, so what I can do, select count asterisk, we have okay, so public, and then pg. See, if I need to know the indexes, right, so it will be pg indexes. Okay, pg index, or okay, oh, my bad, it's not in the public. They are not public in the public schema. And if okay, cool, 143 indexes are there, right? So whenever, I mean, why I'm showing this, because the thing is, in the database, which in the, especially in the Postgres, whatever the common tables are, it will start with the pg. That means pg is Postgres. Cool. Right now we want to know about the triggers, right? So trigger, 8 triggers are there. Cool.
Okay.
It's not going to be visible like this. So right now what we have seen, that there are 8 triggers, right? So procedures is also there, right? So what will happen with the procedures? Procedures, it will be procedure, no. Then it might be procedures, no. Then it can be proc, okay, it is proc, right? So but the thing is same, right? Pg underscore something, right? And see, I have same some time, right? Because the thing is, if I've gone to the Google and try to Google it, okay, what is this thing, and 3 takes it's required, right? So it saved me some time. So if you know that how this thing works, that pg underscore and then procedures, if it does not work, I should have added dur and something, or only pr, different permutation and combination we can use. So right now we have these procedures, right? And even if I try to see, instead of this asterisk, if I try to see the procedures, then the data will be huge, right? I'm unable to read this data, right? I need to sort it down. But we are not going to dive deep into this, because these things are not used in current days. We don't create methods, or it's not common to use procedures or methods right now. Triggers internally, it gets used in the indexes, and but nothing else. Okay. So now we have seen that how can we, if we want to know about a particular index or particular procedure or particular trigger, so what we need to do, select, and I'm doing the count asterisk, because there will be a large number of data and they are not in the public schema. So just indexes and just trigger and just proc, right? So if you don't want the data to read, then remove the asterisk and you will get the data. Cool. So this is the one thing you will not get. Indexes data you will get when you do describe the table. Indexes data you will get, but you are not going to get the functions and triggers data, right? And when we create a trigger, then we will see whether the trigger will be there or not. It will be there, we will see in a little while, because right now it's not visible because we don't have the data, right? Triggers, but triggers will be visible inside the data. Hello, I'm audible? Okay. Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so my connection was lost. I mean, not lost, my battery was dead. So let's check about the recording. It's still recording. Cool. So let's end this thing as well, the triggers and all. So when we try to see the relations or see the tables and all those things in the database, triggers and functions will not be visible, right? But if there is a trigger inside a table, then it will be visible. We will create a trigger right now and we'll just see the example how a trigger and a function will work. Cool. So now we have, I mean, we have already seen if you want some data, then from where we get the data, right? PG triggers and PG indexes and PG proc, right?
Yeah.
From there we can use this thing. So right now let's employ, okay, we already have an employee table, right? Employees, let's see what employees data we have. We will, okay, ID, name and manager ID. Okay, ID name, manager ID. Okay, cool. Let's alter table public in PLOY. Yes. Okay. So what I'm going to do, add column salary decimal 10 into 10.2. Okay. So what's happened now, there is a salary column as well, right, over here in my employees. Cool. I'm audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I have just employees table was already there from the self join session.
Yeah.
I just added the salary with the decimal value with the precision of 10 values and the post decimal two values, two digits precision. I have created one table of
Yeah.
employees, right? Already created, just added one thing. Now I'm going to create a table salary changes. Salary. Okay, let me first let you go through the thing that we are going to do. Let's suppose there is an employee table, right? There is an employee table, employee one, and okay, ID, name, and the salary, right? Let's say there is only three things. Let's say one ID is there and Ashok is there, right? And his salary is 50,000, right? And let's say someone has come, I mean, after 1 year, his salary becomes 80,000, right?
Okay.
So in the table, it will have only 80,000, right? But the HR needs to know, right, how many appraisals it has and how much salary it has incremented each year, right? We wanted to create the automatically create the appraisal letters, right? And if you want later on, if he has lost his appraisal letter, if you want again, then how will you find that, okay, from which position he has moved to which position, right? All this data will require, but instead of position, we are only going to save the salary, right? From which salary he has moved to which salary. Right now we cannot, from this table we cannot know that from which salary he used to make when he joined the firm, right? And right now we know that he is making 80,000, but we don't know how many appraisals it has, or what he was earning when he joined the firm, right? So for this case, but the HRMS need the entire data, right? I mean, HRMS is HR management system, right?
Mm.
So HRMS needs to know the entire data, right? So what we will create another table, and the table name will be salary changes. So the thing will be over here, we will have an ID, right? So it will be the primary key of this table only, right? Then we will be having employee ID, right? This will be the foreign key of the employee table. Then we will be having old salary and then new salary. Cool. And the change date, because we also need to know when the salary has changed. So these things will have. So now if you want to know, okay, when he joined, so the day he joined is not over here, but the change of salary is there, right? From the joining date we can get, okay, he joined on the X date, and let's say that the employee has joined. Again, this is low level designing that we are doing, so it's not a part of our course, but I'm saying that someone joined at 01 and 01, and then we will move, and over here the change date says that, okay, let's take this, and the change date says that he joined on this thing 2021, this, or on this 2022. On this thing the salary has been changed from 50,000 to 80,000. Good. Now we have entire data, right? He joined on 21st of January 2021, and on 2022 or 1st January salary moved from here to here. Then if the HRMS need to auto generate the salary, then it can make that if your salary has been, your increment has been of 80%, right? So it's from 50,000, sorry, 60%. From 50,000 to 80,000 is 60% appraisal, right? So now we have all the data from when he joined, when the salary changed, what was the earlier salary, what was the new salary. Now we can get entire data, right? Employee ID is there, so from the employee column we can get the name and everything we can get, right? So this is how we designed it. So right now, when we are not here to check the HRMS database design part, but we are here just to make sure that this data is structure that we already know has all the required data, right? So the thing is, if I already have, why the triggers were there, right? So if I have this thing, right, if I am inserting data into this query, right, so if there are two tables I already know, instead doing the one thing, instead it's better transaction for me to first write a query, insert into this employee table, right, and then insert into this employee salary changes table, right? What's the benefit of me from, instead of doing this to running two query, I'm just running one query and adding a trigger. Let's see in how many ways we can first tackle this situation. The one thing is I update the salary, right? The one thing is I update the salary, then I update this thing, salary changes, right? This would be the one first thing, right?
Okay.
And another thing would be I will update the salary first and then do this, and I will do it in a transaction, so it will make sure that, okay, the sequence does not matter, both things will be saved or none will be saved, right? So with transaction we have this benefit.
Yeah.
But the thing is still I'm executing two queries, right? Two different queries I'm executing, right?
Yeah.
And the code I also need to write on the salary changes part, right? But the salary changes thing is not like that I have to do it. Someone might come, and if you don't know that, okay, the salary changes table exists and it needs to be updated as soon as the salary is updated, right? If
Yeah.
someone will just manually come and instead of the code just manually updated this database, right, then the salary changes will not be updated, right? One thing.
Yeah.
Another thing is that, let's say he has no access to write in the production environment, but the thing is he has written some code in some other thing, he has updated the salary, like updated, in joining date, if the employee will have a different thing as well, right? The name he want to change, surname he want to change. So someone has just written employee update controller, and over there he just updated, he has provided all these things, right? Whether if you want to change, he has written some common code. Now the developer does not aware that, okay, the salary changes table exists, right? So he might write some generic code, which would be good, but the thing is he is not aware of the structures that one has created, right? These things are done by the freshers or juniors only. Seniors who have stayed for the 2 years, they know the entire structures. So that's why companies trying to find people who have at least 3 years in a firm or 2 years in a firm. So they want stable people, because then they will be aware of their system as well, and future can also train the or groom the students or manage them as well. So eventually what happens, I mean there will be an issue, right? If I create this table, then there might be a chance that data will not be updated or stale data will be there, right? Because someone just directly execute the query, or someone is not aware of this, they just write some controller which updates the salary as well and not updating this thing, right? So this is an issue, there is an issue with this. So we cannot rely on the data until we make sure that anyhow this salary has been updated, so this salary changes also needs to be updated. So if there is a situation like this, then what you can do, you can we can create a trigger. And what's a trigger? In trigger we will mention that as soon as you update, if update query, regardless whether it's running through machine or you are just directly updating, if you update the salary column, right, salary column of employee table, right, then update salary changes table as well, table as well. So by this what will happen, even if you try to manually update the data, or if your machine is inserting the data, right? For database it does not matter, right? Database don't know if you are manually entering the data or whether you are sending the query with the machine, right? Because database will receive it in the TCP and then everything will be same, right? It does not even care whether you are using the machine or you are manually writing the query. It will be same for the database. Hibernate also converts the ORM queries into the native query, right? So you get what we are trying to do over here?
Yeah, understood. Yeah.
Okay, cool, great. So okay, so let's do one thing. Let's just write this thing. We have already, okay, we have one table, right? We haven't, okay, so salary changes table that we are going to write. Okay, will now you know which tables you want, right? So let's say the change ID, right, instead of ID. So we'll call it serial and the primary key. Okay. We already seen serial, right? Serial
Yeah.
and primary key, right? This is the one thing that we have done. The other thing would be employee ID we require, right? So employee underscore ID int will be good, and then old salary we require, and because the salary is of decimal 10 into, we will require the same data type. Okay, my bad, but cool. And the new salary same decimal and 10 into, and then change date, right? change date and change date will be, we can say the timestamp, right? And but we can say the timestamp, we can take it as a default, right? This is a constraint, right? Default constraint. So I will say current timestamp, so that we don't need to enter it, right? Whenever we are updating the salary, that's the time that it's updating, right? So
Yeah.
that's the thing. And then we try to, okay, decimal, cool, table has been created, right? Now what do we need to write is a function, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and when we write a function, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to teach you how to write a function, right? Because it does not make sense right now. I know the simple reason is because, I mean, I had a legacy code, so I need to read it again and again. I thought that there is some issue. There is nothing wrong. Create or replace a function, right? This is just to make sure if the function exists, I'm able to replace it, right? The implementation. Okay, I'm not going to give commentary, but it's easy. I mean, database is completely easy, right? So log salary. This is the function name, log salary, like the sum. We have created the sum, right?
Okay.
Okay, let me stop the recording. I have to. So we were creating this function, right? And the thing is, we are using the function. Just, I mean, this knowledge you don't require. But the thing is, with Postgres, if we are trying to use the trigger in the Postgres, the trigger requires a return method, right? In MySQL, so the procedure returns don't return the any value, and function return a value, right? So in Postgres only the triggers require a return value, so we cannot use procedures with the triggers, right? That's why we are writing the functions. In other MySQL and all, it is allowed, so you can even use the procedures with the triggers as
अच्छा.
well. And also the procedures was the earlier version, right? Because we need the return type, right? It's obvious that one is forcing you not to return anything and another one allows you to return values. So obvious that function is better, right? And function is advanced or came later on. So that's why we are
Okay.
writing the function and the salary, right? And like in the normal method functions, we ended with the change, right?
अच्छा.
So this thing, and then we'll call that please return trigger, right? We will later on write the trigger as well, and then we need to mention that which language we need to use, right? Then for this pl pg sql is the thing that the Postgres understands, and the thing that we have mentioned over here will come later on as. And then this is not alias, right? This is the start of the code. This at double asterisk, it says that okay, this will be the start or initial thing of the code, right? From here the code will start, right?
Okay.
And then we will do the begin, right? We are already doing the begin, right? So now what we'll do, we'll say that okay, insert. Now we need to write the query that's going to be okay. See, till here what we did, only the function name that it will going to return the trigger, the language we are going to use, starting it, right, beginning it. Now the thing that going to execute, right? So what we want to do, we want to insert into, we want a query to insert into, in which table we want to insert, we want to insert into salary changes, right? And I'm not sure that whether the spelling is correct or not, the table we have created. And over here it would be good if we use the entire thing, right? We have I remember that we have used the serial, right? So if we have already used the serial, then we don't have to use the provide the primary key, right?
Hmm.
So I will only use the employee id, old salary, new salary, new salary I'll provide. Okay, salary, right? There is only three things I'll provide. Why? I have two more columns, right? One column is the change date, right, when the salary has changed, and one column is the primary key. So primary key will be taken care by, because I have used the serial, and for the
So default, yeah.
and the other value is default, right? So I can just enter the three value only. Okay,
Okay.
just give me 1 second. Alright, I have touched some dot. Cool. Alright, so this thing is there, right? Now I want to add the values, right? Now the values will be there, and for the values what I will do, new dot employee. Now the question will, okay, what is new dot employee, right? Then old dot salary, right? And then the new dot salary. Cool. So this new, and then okay, wait, now there is an issue that this employee id, I don't know, we okay, new dot id will be there because in the employee table we have used the id only, right? So the new and old is the rows, right? We have the rows right now. The new row is the row that we have entered, old row is this, old is the old row column, right? So I can use over new and old because id will be same, because both employee will be same, right? And then, I mean, do you understand what we have done over here?
No,
We
no, this part is.
Okay, you don't have to understand first thing, but the other thing is that this you can take it as a new, is the new row that we have updated the row, right? So that would be the new row. We have updated where? We have updated in the employee table, right? So in
Acha, other table. You are referring to the other table. Huh? Okay.
other table, that one particular row, right? We are not going to dive deep into that,
Okay.
how it's working, and why we use new, and whether new is a variable or how it works, because it does not matter. You're not never going to write anything over here. So we can return just new, right? And then we need to, I mean, this begin is not the transaction begin, right? Then we need to write the end, that's it. And because we begin, that's why we have to end. And as this thing is the start, right, I made sure that this is the marker to start, right? So this will be the marker to end as well, right?
Okay.
So now it is easy, right? It's very hard. Just I mean, like we create table, create other thing, like we are creating a function, right? Or replacing or creating, then we are returning the trigger. Language we have checked it started, if we start, we will write begin. If we write begin, we will return end. And if we have started with this, we will end with this, right? And we are returning the new, right? Okay, and okay, my bad. Oh, it will throw an error. Okay, there were many issues with this. One thing is its returns. Okay, I need to copy paste it and take it to the here, and over here let's add this and fix the code. Instead of new, we'll use new caps new, and let's make it. Database is not case sensitive, but we can still can use the thing that we are using, the new concept we are learning. We should make it there. Okay, returns we have done. Okay, and then over here we have done and we have done new, and there's ends. Okay, cool. So it should work right now if our data is correct, or if our table names are also correct. Language language eplpg sql syntax error. Okay, returns.
GUAGE.
Oh yes. Okay, guag, yes. Okay, cool. There is no transaction in progress. So why create insert into table error syntax at $. So as begin. Okay, at end. Return new syntax error or return new, and error at $. As well. Why? Okay, $, and then I need to end it, and new also I need to end it, and the query I also need to end it. Okay, it should have. Okay. Okay, let's try to run a basic command from public orders. Okay, it's working. Cool. So this thing is not there. I forgot to add the semicolon at the end. That's why. So we have a function right now, right? With the log salary. So we are done with the creating a function, right? But we need to trigger that function, right? Someone needs to execute that function. So for that we will create a trigger, right? So create a trigger. Everything is same. Create a trigger, right? Normal. Then trigger name. It's same. Whether we need to create a sequence, a trigger, a function, everything will be same. Create, and the thing that you want to create, and that you need to provide a name, right? So I'm creating a trigger that log salary change. Again, this thing is not something that you should go after and also check it, because it does not matter, right? So I can use the after also, after update of salary, before update of salary. I can do both things, right? So it's saying that after you update the salary, then do this, right? Then trigger it, but it will be executed in a transaction, and it's completely cool. You can, I mean, it's completely fine. We can choose anything. And on employees, right? Creating a trigger, right? Creating a trigger in the trigger name, right?
Okay.
And when this trigger name needs to be updated after update of salary, right? And we will see where will be the salaries, and the salaries will be a column, right? So where is the
Okay.
salary column? On the employees table, right?
Gotcha.
And then how I need to update it for each row. For each row I need to update, right? If a table, I mean, one employee has been upgraded, so it's a row wise operation, right? For each row I need to do it, right? For not each table, for every row will be a every user. I mean, I'm not going to dive deep into that more.
Okay.
So for every row I need to do this. And then when I need to do this, when the old row, right, old dot salary, when my old dot salary is distinct, when I'm using distinct, the reason is if I am updating with the same salary, then I should not update it, right? Because there is no increment, right? See if you are unable to get it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Understood.
you got it, cool.
Yeah.
Great it. Because if the salary, there is no difference in the salary, then why will I mean, it will be identification function for this insert also, because there is no difference in the salary table, employee table, then it should not reflect in the salary update table as well. So distinct from the new salary, new dot salary, salary. Cool. Then what I need to do, so see what we have done over here. We have created a trigger and given the trigger a name, and we are saying that okay, you do it after you update the salary column on employees table, and you need to do it for each row when the old salary becomes different from the new salary, right? It can be positive or it can be negative, right? In the design interview question, it can say okay, we need to stop the negative salary as well, because there will be never a negative growth. Then there will be a scenario that like in the pandemic the salary was reduced of the employees, then those things can happen, but this is reference to, right? We are not going to dive deep into that. So let's say over here it can handle both cases, right, where the salary can be negative and the positive, right? Because we are using distinct, they're not adding any other checks, right? We can add the checks as old salary can be greater than the new salary, when only we'll do it, all those things we can do it. Then we need to add that thing in our main table as well, right? Then there is another completely different view. Then we will need to know when to execute it, right? When to execute it. So it needs to trigger, will only trigger a function, right? For or procedure, or in Postgres you cannot use a procedure, so you need to trigger a function only, right? So that's why we have written the function earlier. Then what was the name of our uh, function? Log salary changes. Now I don't know whether it was change or changes, so let's go with change first. And okay, we have created a trigger, right? On the employees table we have created a trigger, right? So let's check the employee table. On the trigger section it's mentioned, right? So everything is mentioned. The trigger name is trigger log salary change. When I need to trigger it? After the update of salary on employees table, right? For each row, when old salary is different from the new salary, execute procedure. Now the thing is, we have created a function, then too it will show the procedure over here, right? Don't get confused with it, because it was the legacy thing, so it will be showing this thing only, right? And which what it will execute? It will execute the log salary changes, right? Got it?
Okay.
So now if you want to know, because we know the how to, okay, wait, now we know that, let's check the data first whether it's working or not as well, right? Public order, okay, employees, right? 3 employees are there, right? Select asterisk from public orders, orders. And okay, I don't even know the table again. Salary changes, okay, yes, I remember. Start from public salary changes, no rows, right? So let's insert into public employees, right? And let's say 4, and let's say Nikhila, and let's say manager ID, let's say 1 only, and the salary let's say 50,000. Okay, values need to add values. Cool, I have inserted the row, right? So if I have inserted the row, right? So what will happen, that in the employees table I have the row, right? But will I get the row in salary changes as well? No. Why I don't have? Because on update queries I have written it, right? On update, trigger will after update of salary, right? It is not update, it's insertion, right? So now what I'll do, update public, and let's see whether we have any data in the salary changes. No data, right? So let's update now. Update public employees, right? Then set salary equals to 80,000 where id equals to 4. Now it's update operation, right? So let's see first the employees table. 80,000 is the salary, right? Now let's see salary changes. Old salary 50,000, new salary 80,000. Updated on this. Employee ID 4 Nikhila, change ID 1. Cool. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay.